Yeah, I don't know if you saw the last episode when I posted it, but on the show notes, I am putting every movie you list and where to watch it. So if people feel the need, they can go.
Some of these, I have no idea where law-abiding citizens are supposed to watch it.
Cole Wissinger back today to talk about his 31 Days of Halloween movie marathon. Enjoy. We're talking more spooky movies this week, right?
I think so. Unless you want to talk about anything else. Our fantasy teams, life, the election.
The election, you're right. There's not enough chatter about the election. We should probably add our two white male voices.
That's what the media has been missing. Unprecedented territory.
Yeah, we will actually have a different podcast to talk about our fantasy football, so we'll save that for another day. But let's talk about spooky movies. All right, since last week, take us through the movies you've been watching.
As we said, we start off with with Halloween 10 and Saw. Saw is going to be my new October 1st kind of thing going forward because I've managed to get through the whole of the Halloween franchise. I had a note before we started recording last week. I thought I was going to have to dive into the whole Halloween as a franchise thing. And I had my Halloween rankings and I was ready for just any kind of question. We just didn't get there. And now I lost that and I realized my Halloween franchise thoughts are not that different or cool. I'm a big Season of the Witch guy. That was at this point 7 years ago for me. Whatever.
Wow.
So, starting with October 3rd, this week, since we've chatted last, Shadow of the Vampire. This is a movie about the making of Nosferatu and what if, when they were making Nosferatu the Vampire, like the original, not Dracula, the original way to get around copyright back in the early 1900s, what if the guy that they hired to be Nosferatu, they hired him because he was an actual vampire? And he's played by Willem Dafoe, who's going to be in the new Nosferatu movie that's coming out shortly.
It's all coming together.
Yep. So you have John Malkovich as intense movie director. So, I mean, it ticks all the Hollywood boxes of about movie making, about how directors' visions are sacred and what they understand. And then it gets into a little vampire at the end of it. So that's Shadow of the Vampire. Staying on kind of the old theme route, I watched the original, The Wolfman. That's my designated Universal Monster movie of the year.
Now the original Wolfman, what year was this? Like the 30s, the 40s?
1941. Yeah, all the Universals, they're going to be like through the 30s into early 40s.
The original Wolfman. I know that a lot of people talk about this movie being so great. I've never watched it and I don't even remember it in the video store. How did you first get hooked on the Wolfman?
So watching AMC movies as a kid is where I got introduced to most of the Universal Monster movies. And right now, a lot of them are on Amazon Prime. So we're getting dangerously close. These movies were still pretty prescient whenever I was a kid, 25 years ago or whatever. We're getting close to these just being in the public domain so that everyone can watch them anyway. But they are normally available. Right now they're on Amazon Prime. And I chose The Wolfman. I've seen Dracula and Frankenstein, The Invisible Man semi-recently. And it's fun how you get the same cast of characters cropping up. So Claude Rains, I think, is an amazing The Invisible Man. I watched that just a couple of years ago. And he plays the Wolfman Lon Chaney Jr.'s father in this movie, where Lon Chaney Jr. plays this guy coming back to the estate. He's an outsider. And then a group of Romani come in and they are dressed in the racist garb that you would expect from the 1930s and 40s.
Wonderful.
And they're the others that all of a sudden bring this curse of the Wolfman onto this unsuspecting small town, and then murders ensue. And it was the Wolfman all along.
Now, because you like this one and you love it, do you shy away from the more recent iterations?
Look, there's not a lot of the Universal Monster movies that are genuinely better movies than more recent ones. These were the schlock of the day, right? We talk about how in the 80s, and especially some of the sequels to some of the slasher movies, they didn't have a lot of, prestige to them. They were just made for the common masses, and they were made to be drive-in movies. These Universal Monster movies weren't pretending to be high-class art at the time either. Like I said, you just bring the same actors over and over again. You put them in different makeup, and you go with what you have. And so I have a respect for a lot of them, and there's a few that I hold in very high regard that I think are underrated as movies and the acting. Like there's things to appreciate about them. The Wolfman's one of the lesser of the Universal monster movies, honestly. The transition scene as he transitions from man to wolf is one of them is the thing that you're going to hear about with this movie. Even other times that the Wolfman has been portrayed, the idea that, oh, they don't want to be the monster and all those where all those themes come from are addressed in this movie also. So like chaining him up at night so that he doesn't attack, divulging to one trusted accomplice that, hey, I think I am the Wolfman. Will you watch me at night? And then they don't. And then he gets out and he murders anyway. So all the beats are there.
All the beats are there. And so you have everyone from J.K. Rowling in the Harry Potter films to, more recent Wolfmen to,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when Oz is a werewolf, they do this.
But I remember this Wolfman having, the look is great. This is kind of like the Halloween Wolfman look, right?
Yes, I think so. American Werewolf in London and then Harry Potter werewolves have a much more lean, true wolf look, but just Harry Wolfman Wolf, you're picturing at Lon Chaney Jr.
This is the one. What was your movie for the 5th?
Pumpkinhead, 1988. I wanted to get in here. It's a little bit of like a folk urban legendy style where it's this bumhick town and a new group of, troublemaking teenagers roll in. A mistake happens, a kid dies, and then the kid's father wants to enact his revenge on these outsider teens, and he enlists the help of this old woman that can put him in touch with the beyond and the demons and to make a deal with the devil to bring Pumpkinhead to enact that revenge, who's, by the way, does not have a pumpkin head.
I was like, is this going to be Sleepy Hollow? And I looked it up as we're talking.
That's what it's supposed to be.
It's not Sleepy Hollow.
You look up the monster, it's just a demon, occult-looking monster.
It's a xenomorph.
Call it Pumpkinhead, and you can release it around Halloween and get people like me that just want to watch a horror movie. And yeah.
Does it track like an alien movie?
Not exactly. It doesn't even track as a good slasher where, you have this group and they're picked off one by one, and it gets sloppy at times. It is not the best example of an 80s slasher. It was late 80s. I think they were trying to do something a little bit different, but eventually it just kind of devolved into being lowest common denominator, Texas Chainsaw Massacre ripoff with a demon thrown in.
The Demon Xenomorph Texas Chainsaw Massacre, slightly Halloween movie. All right, we like it. Palate cleanser. What's the next day?
The next day is a good movie. We're talking about Gone Girl.
This is like a Halloween movie for incels and boys who think they have a good portfolio, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, she's coming after you, Doogie Howser. So
Ben Affleck.
This is Gone Girl, of course, David Fincher, 2014 psychological thriller. So this is not what you would imagine as a Halloween slasher, but it's got that elevated thriller aspect, and it's a psychological. It's a psychopath murdering multiple people. So, or at least attempted murder. One attempted suicide to frame for and to set up a death row, murder by the long circuitous route.
Yeah.
It's really good. Everyone should have seen this. As far as Fincher goes, this Zodiac, they're movies that you can watch around this time if you're looking for something that's good on its own merits. And also I get the added benefit here. My wife is a big book reader, and so she read the book. I've never read Gone Girl. It's based on a book. And so I got to do the debrief at the end of this to have her tell me all the things that they changed. And it was super faithful, especially that just chilling ending where they're battling each other and he realizes that he actually kind of likes how crazy she is because he's a little bit crazy himself. And there's, he wouldn't want an easy Midwestern girl. He wanted the New York and he wanted the crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the book ends as well. Very good, top to bottom. Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes.
In the middle of it. His character is a little bit different from the book character.
Okay.
Apparently, according to my wife. But otherwise, extremely faithful adaptation, long, good psychological thriller.
Yeah, this was one that I didn't like purposely put off, but I missed it in theaters 2014, and everyone had built it up so much. I was kind of scared to watch it. I was like, I don't know if I really want to like invest the time and emotions in this. So I finally watched it 3 years ago on recommendation. My fiance loves this movie, and maybe you shouldn't love this movie.
That's when a dude says his favorite movie is Fight Club, my antennas go up. When a girl says their favorite movie is Gone Girl, the antennas should go up a little bit.
Both antennas go up because she loves both of those movies. So anyway, good movie to
Yay,
rewatch if you didn't love it the first time, or if you did. Rosamund Pike did this movie. What's the other one from a couple years ago with Peter Dinklage? I Care a Lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's kind of a similar character in that. It's like if this woman from Gone Girl went and like started a business, you know?
That was a 2020 release. I remember that. Yeah.
2020. Yep. Yep. I Care a Lot was on Netflix. Anyway, Gone Girl. Great choice. Maybe it shouldn't be your favorite movie, but if it is, for the right reasons.
Maybe if it is, just don't tell people. Don't make
there
it.
You go.
When someone's asking you what your favorite movie is, they're asking you a question to get to know you. And so they don't want to hear, like, if what they're trying to find out, you're not going to be able to communicate it by having the answer be Gone Girl or Fight Club, right? You can appreciate those movies, but those movies should not be speaking to you on a psychological level.
Yeah, what's your favorite movie? Necromantic 2.
Talk to me about Cannibal Holocaust, my favorite movie.
There we go.
No, that's not
favorite.
The correct answer. There are right and wrong answers to questions of opinion, and that would be a wrong answer. Then I lightened the mood a little bit.
All right.
So I told you on the last episode that I watched Toy Story of Terror with my 1-year-old child, and that's like a 20-minute short. Okay. We've watched a few of the other ones, but there's a new on Netflix, right? So we'll tick off a couple 2024 things. The Bad Guys. Really cool animation style, really great voice work, decent enough as a really just directed for kids. There are kids' movies that are really good. There are kids' movies that Pixar makes that are just happen to be animated but deal with adult themes and I think go totally over kids' heads, like Inside Out 2. I think that movie was a little bit of a mess. And then you have a movie like this, The Bad Guys Haunted Heist, which is sort of a short. It's about a half hour long, based on The Bad Guys. So The Bad Guys was a series of graphic novels also and books for kids. This is The Bad Guys around Halloween, where they try to break into and steal a haunted piece of jewelry, and a ghost is gonna get them for it. And turns out there's just the crew playing jokes on each other and trying to prank around Halloween. And it's cute, and none of the really famous actors that happen to lend their voices to the original Bad Guys are in this, but you get normal working voice actors for these to try to, make it sound like it's Awkwafina being the little spider. And it's okay.
Did you like the original movie, the 2022? Yeah.
As a kid's movie. Again, it knows that it's a kid's movie, and it tells a little bit of the morality tale, and it's interesting enough to look at. It wasn't special.
Okay.
It didn't make me mad. There have been some Pixar movies recently that kind of made me mad watching them.
Yeah.
Whereas this was just innocuous kids movie. And so this falls in line with just worse writing and themed around Halloween.
The Bad Guys Haunted Heist on Netflix. All right. What was next?
2024. Now let's do the real new release. It's Beetlejuice. I'm
jealous I haven't seen this yet. First off, did you love the first one? Did you grow up with it?
I think that the first Beetlejuice, and I rearrange my Letterboxd top 4 every 4 months or so, right? I don't have a very firm 4 favorite movies. Like I said, when people ask you what your favorite movies are, you're trying to communicate something about yourself. So for the month of October, I changed them to 4 scary movies or 4 Halloween movies. Right now, Beetlejuice is in my top 4.
Wow.
Beetlejuice, if I just had to tell you what my top 10 movies are and really narrow it down, Beetlejuice might make the cut. It is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Wow. Okay. So the sequel definitely had a lot to live up to.
It did, but I didn't care that it would. It has been so long, and it was trying to do some of the legacy sequel stuff while still providing some kind of a plot. So all the Michael Keaton stuff, all the, interacting, and the fact that Beetlejuice is back was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was written by just an absolute cast of characters. Like, there were 4.5 different plots that were all mashed up, and everyone wanted to have their plot be the one that drives it. And so in the end, there's 3 different bad guys. One we just dispatch of in a joke, which honestly kind of it fits Beetlejuice, whatever. But the original was so good.
Yeah.
Because it focused in. And Beetlejuice, very famously, has very limited screen time in the first Beetlejuice, and he's used sparingly to great effect. And it's more the story of 2 ghosts dealing with new occupants in their house, whatever. In this new one, we feel the need to give a lot of screen time and a lot of attention and, put some plot behind all of our returning characters while also introducing twice as many now new characters for this one and trying to give them all something to do. And eventually, the movie ends up feeling like you just don't get enough screen time with everyone while still being an overly long movie. And yet, my overall opinion of it is this is kind of the right way to do a legacy sequel where it's a bit of a mess. It doesn't live up to it, certainly, but it drops you back into that world that you enjoyed without doing just so many over the top, hey, remember this, or hey, here's that thing that you liked in that first one. It gives the characters something new to do.
Yeah.
And gives enough service to all the old characters, and it's also, a new little adventure. And yeah, it's a mess, but it's okay.
Okay, so a fun mess. I mean, because I remember they were talking once the press tour started that Beetlejuice in the original movie had like 17 and a half minutes of screen time out of 92 minutes. Mm-hmm. And they tried to keep it almost exactly the same for this one.
No, he's in it way more.
Okay, so he is in it more. Is it even like proportional? Who knows? Because I was just Googling. I'm like, I swear they told the screen time. They didn't mention the exact minutes, which is probably why, he is in there more.
That's something that you would want to advertise because it is a well-known little piece of trivia from the first one. Yeah, but he's in it more, and they do it. They have a problem figuring out what, because you introduce a main villain that is Beetlejuice's ex-wife or something in the 3rd or 4th shot, and it's Tim Burton's new. Honestly, I thought it was Eva Green at first, but I was like, no. They're not together anymore. So it's whoever Tim Burton's new
Monica Bellucci.
It's not Helena Bonham Carter. It's not, anyway, it's whoever that is. And she's gorgeous and she has an amazing introduction. And then we just don't have a scene with her in it for about a half hour. And then the scriptwriters remember that that's who we set up as our main villain. So we get like one more just establishing shot of this is who she is. Nothing for another 20 minutes as we get on all our other little plot cul-de-sacs.
Does it feel like a loss not having Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis?
So again, for all that, now that's what I tried to figure out is it did seem like we were giving a lot of attention to a lot of these returning characters, and we didn't even get all the returning characters, and Beetlejuice didn't have that many to begin with. I don't know. It was the vibe I got was we're trying to do too much because there's the Jurassic World, whatever the third one, Dominion was. Dominion. Where we're trying to now mash literally everyone from the old ones with everyone from the new ones. So you have double the amount of cast that you really should in a normal movie. And they did not mesh and it was bad.
Yeah.
That was the vibe I got from this while being, better overall than Dominion. And yet they're numbers wise, when I tried to count it out, we didn't bring back that many people because the original Beetlejuice was such a contained thing. It's just, I guess they didn't interact very well. Everyone just had their own little storyline. Literally every single individual character had their own personal storyline, which might be something they told you to do in scriptwriting 101, but not like this. Yeah.
Well, that does sound a little more, ensemble-y and messy. Okay.
But, okay, so wait.
Still good, though.
I think I've pooped on it too much because the end result was, I think, a good movie.
A good Beetlejuice. Okay.
A lot. And Michael Keaton came back. He wasn't perfect. You can tell he's kind of been out of the face makeup and green hair for a while, but it was good.
Well, it seems to be a hit generally. I mean, opening weekend, 111 million.
Yeah.
The gross in the U.S. right now, 228. Gross worldwide, 332 million. So it's doing numbers, and people are
at the time it was going up against Deadpool and Wolverine in its second month. By the way, there was we have not gotten a lot of powerhouse tent poles for it to compete with, and it just accidentally became a tent pole. Which, okay, so your first one's called Beetlejuice. Second one, instead of calling it Beetlejuice 2 or Beetlejuice: The Return of the Juice Man,
the Juice
you
Man.
called it Beetlejuice, which means you have to make a third one that's called Beetlejuice. That's his whole thing is you say the name 3 times.
Do you feel like it set it up pretty well by the end to have another sequel?
Not in a gross, like, Alita Battle Angel, oh, what are we going to do on next episode kind of way. Like, they really did end this story.
Yeah.
And yet the title of the movie tells me in 5 years we should be expecting another one. Also, so Top Gun Maverick came out a couple years ago, and it was at the time the longest gap between a first movie and a second movie in a franchise. And I think Beetlejuice just broke that. The first one coming out in 1988 and this one coming out in 24. Maybe it tied Top Gun, because it feels like to me Top Gun was 86 off the top of my dome, and then Maverick came out a couple years ago. But that was like part of the talk, was we were in that territory of longest gap between a first and second installment. Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise. We should be getting a third Top Gun, because Glenn Powell is only even more famous than he was last time, and we definitely should be getting a third Beetlejuice. Although both movies did the decent job in your legacy sequel of honoring your past characters, setting up some new people, and not overtly begging us to come back to the third installment by leaving you on a cliffhanger, which a lot of movies have a problem with right now.
Before I forget, I guess the sequel timing is, do you count Mary Poppins Returns as a sequel to Mary Poppins?
Oh, you certainly should. Yeah, I don't know what podcast I was listening to. I didn't give 2 thoughts to this. I'm just repeating what someone else said.
No, yeah. I mean, because I'm looking here, I'm like, oh, I guess it's without Julie Andrews in the new one, so maybe they didn't count as much. Anyways.
But it had Angela Lansbury in a role that seemingly should have been Julie Andrews, so...
More Disney mistakes. Okay.
Well, and that's the week. That is the week worth of movies. The last movie I have on here is close and near dear to your heart. It is the movie I'm watching today, and I started it on the train this morning because I could download it to my phone, and I got halfway through the first sequence of Godzilla -1 and realized I need to be watching this on a larger screen and not on a train, and pay attention to this movie, because we're in for something good. So when I get home today from work, I will be watching Godzilla -1, because Godzilla is the true first monster, and he and King Kong kind of established what a creature feature could be in like a scary way, and tying your monsters to real world events and playing off of, cultural scary things. So while Godzilla -1 was not advertised as, hey, all you horror fans, come out to check out our movie, he has his roots in my world, and so I'm going to watch it in October.
Okay, when you say you get to the first sequence, like through the attack at the airbase?
Yeah, halfway. Godzilla shows up in that attack, and I realize we're in for something that's real here. Like, I can't just halfway pay attention to this on my train ride.
Yeah, I had to see it in theaters, so I saw it opening weekend. I know we talked about it on earlier episodes of the podcast. Are you watching black and white or color the first go?
Color, but also Japanese language English subtitles.
Oh, that's good. Okay, great.
Which, by the way, my Netflix defaulted to it being English, and I was pretty sure I remember this Godzilla -1 being separate from all of our Americanized Godzillas, and that so if it was produced in Japan, it should have been Japanese language, and so I switched over. That's how my dad taught me to watch these Godzilla movies when I was a small child. My dad has watched every trashy. Talk about, like, let's be honest with ourselves. We are making better movies now than we used to. Yes. Like, there have been 400 trashy Godzilla movies that we don't need to pretend were pure cinema.
They were pure camp. Yeah, there's a lot
and
of.
They were good. They're fun.
Baby Godzilla. When Baby Godzilla showed up, I was like, at this point, we're more Power Rangers than Godzilla, but it was still fun. But yeah, not to the level of what the Japanese are doing now. I mean, Shin was scary, but Godzilla -1 is so political and also emotional at moments. It definitely is a step above the the camp of the 80s and 90s.
Good.
Yep.
Well, that's coming up for next week. Also, in between this week and next week, it will be the 13th of October. That's when I generally watch the next Friday the 13th installment. We don't have a Friday the 13th this year, but on the 13th of the month, I'll watch another one.
Which installment are you doing this year?
So this is number 10 in the list, and so this is Jason X.
Jason X. Oh my gosh.
Homagingly and friendly referred to as Jason Goes to Space. This is the one in the future. So you get the end of Jason Goes to Hell, which is what I watched last year, sets up a potential Freddy versus Jason, because Freddy's claw comes through and grabs the Jason mask, and we're like, oh boy, Are they going to figure it out? And then the two studios could not figure it out. And so in order to just keep interest for Jason alive, they throw out this little Jason X in the meantime because it was taking too long to get Freddy vs. Jason off the ground. And then Freddy vs. Jason comes out a couple years later. And by this time, I mean, both franchises had just been in the toilet for almost 10 years.
So Freddy vs. Jason is 2003, I want to say, right?
It's in the 2000s, yes, which mean neither of these characters were relevant past about 1988.
Okay.
And it took until 2003. Yeah, you're right. 2003 for Freddy vs. Jason. Jason Goes to Hell was 1993. So it took him 10 years after setting up Freddy to get there. And that's why we have Jason X in the meantime. Hey, remember who Jason is? And it's just, again, I've seen this one before. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to talk about it more next week, but
for sure,
not the best one.
Jason X, 2001, the cassette art, the box art, I remember so well going to Hollywood Video and Movie Gallery because it was scary to me. I had no idea what it was. And there were, I think, some kids our age who would dress up as Jason. So that was at least a good way to introduce it to, I think, a lot of our generation.
Cyber, like Uber Jason, the kind of futuristic one.
Yeah.
And we get some callbacks. It's a little more meta than it has any right to be, but that was also that was the meta in Hollywood at the time.
Yeah. Jason X. All right. Well, I'm excited to hear how you think of it this time. And for everyone listening, if you're looking for spooky movies to watch and you want to follow along with Cole's list, go to our show notes on Spotify, your favorite podcast platform. We've got links there on where to watch each one. And then tune in again next Wednesday as we continue with our 31 Days of Halloween. Before we go, make sure you check out the show notes on your favorite podcast platform for links to the movies that Cole mentioned today, with Halloween 2 from 2018 and Saw from 2004, as well as links to all of the previous articles Cole has written with us covering his 31 Days of Halloween. Until next time, we hope you watch good, scary movies and TV.